Martyrology, our service in remembrance of the martyrs of Israel. I welcome to the Bima all of our students who will lead us in the service of Martyrology. Benjamin Auslander, Sadie Cohen, Avery Fox, Ari Harold, Levi Harold, Judah Joseph, Leah Clapper, Bella Maurer, Harris Knocklis, Zachary Paul, Ruth Rosenberg, and Sam Schwartz-Wardowski. We continue at the bottom of page 2. Ele eskra v'nashi alai esh pecha. These I recall and pour out my heart.
There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light. Long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. We remember as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. We remember. Haim, Haim, Shemarim, La'adam, Et Hadereh, Et Hadereh. Haim, Haim, Shemarim, La'adam, Et Hadereh, Et Hadereh.
Antiquity, the martyrdom of Akiva. The Romans decreed that the Jewish people were no longer allowed to study Torah, but Rabbi Akiva publicly convened assemblies and continued to teach Torah.
Eventually, he was captured and imprisoned. The hour of execution was the time for the recitation of the morning Shema. So as they scraped his skin with iron combs, he recited the Shema, accepting the yoke of the sovereignty of heaven.
His students cried out, "Even now!" He said to them, "All my life I was troubled that I could not fulfill the verse, to love God with all your soul. That is, even should God take your life, I asked myself, when will the time come that I can fulfill the verse? Now that I have that possibility, shouldn't I fulfill it?"
He prolonged the word echad, one, so that his soul left him as he uttered the word echad, one. The association of the Shema with Rabbi Akiva's death made its recitation a deathbed affirmation of faith, a declaration of unity of God for all Jews. To this day, we hope that when our end comes, we echo Akiva in his surety and strength in the face of the unknown.
The death of Rabbi Hananiah ben Chayil. They wrapped him in the Torah he loved and lived by and taught with awe, in defiance of the Romans, craving the teaching as fish crave water. Hananiah was not the first Jew to be bound and burned by the Amalek enemy, nor would he be the last. That was certain. There were still the priests and princes of Spain, and crusaders and Cossacks, and the most mass efficient of all the Germans to come. But his tortured vision message was the first.
The medieval period, the First Crusade, a personal account. It came to pass in the year 4856, which was the year 1096 according to the calendar of the nations. The first upon whom the enemies came in the courtyard were some of the most devout. Among them was the great scholar Rabbi Yitzchak ben Moshe. And the blood of men was commingled with that of their wives, of children, and of babes, and that of commingled of their mothers. All were slaughtered upon the day for the sake of the oneness and awesome name of God. He who hears of this is not his very soul shaken. 1,100 were sacrificed in one day.
The destruction of Spanish Jewry. Judah and Israel know how bitter I am, as I tremble for my sins, shuddering and shaken. For gone is my song or any possible joy, replaced by memories of Seville now lost and forsaken. Gone as well are the crown of Catalonia and Aragon. Ruled are you now by a pillaging crew. Gone the splendid chant of Castile and Leon, my tears could fill vessels while we being anew. Gone the splendor of the Mishnah and Talmud, reviled by foes and by traitors negating you. Gone God's congregations and students of the law, rise then Judah, for Israel it's time to mourn.
Gone the patriarchs' merit, no longer able to defend their descendants, their stock oppressed and completely forlorn. Gone faith in God as my people succumbed to the ravager who declared, "Worship as I." Gone is the sweetness from the people of God. They are left only with the bitterness coming nigh. Gone beauty, gone goodness, gone the teachings of the wise, all have taken or have rotted away. Gone awareness of everyday affairs, I have come to despise singing and the dancer's sway. Gone God's reply to the people's cry, no one to answer or comfort or care.
Gone is God's pity, mercy forgotten, now become cruel, my enemies pair. Gone prophetic dreams and visions of hope, priestly charm or help from the holy name are past. You will not hear the call of Elijah, God's prophet, for heaven has restrained him and he is told, stand fast. Salvation is gone from the Hebrew folk. New troubles spring up as a fiery blaze. For gone is God's presence, no longer found on earth, not in temple or folk or amidst glorious praise.
The early modern period. One day, Hasidim came to inform the great Rebbe Nachman of Bratslav of renewed persecutions of Jews in the Ukraine. The master listened and said nothing. Then they told him of pogroms in certain villages. Again, the master listened and said nothing. Then they told of slaughtered families, of desecrated cemeteries, of children burned alive. The master listened and shook his head. I know, he whispered. I know what you want. I know. You want me to shout with pain, weep in despair. I know. But I will not, you hear me? I will not. Then after a long silence, he did begin to shout, louder and louder. Gewalt, Yidden, Jews, for heaven's sake, do not despair. Gewalt, Yidden, Jews, do not despair.
Don't despair, don't weep, oh sad Israel. Soon will end these sorrowful hours. Bear these dreadful times with pride. Your garden yet will bloom with flowers. Your strength will come from legions of young, ready to work with fresh song. A song on our lips and faith in our hearts. In storms the believers stay strong. Love is the watchword on our flag. We herald it wherever we may be. Lift up your hearts and look straight ahead. This people yet will be free. So don't despair, don't weep, oh sad Israel. Soon will end these sorrowful hours. Bear these dreadful times with pride. Your garden yet will bloom with flowers.
The Shoah, Korczak's children. It was August 5th, 1942, when the Nazis came for the children in Korczak's charge. It was not clear whether Korczak told the children what they might expect, but his teachers and nurses had the 200 orphans ready when the Nazis raided the orphanage. The Nazis burst in, but the children did not cry out or run and hide. They clung to Korczak, who stood between them and the Germans. Bareheaded, he led the way, holding a child by each hand. They marched to their deaths in exemplary order without a single tear, in such a terrifying silence that it thundered with indictment and defiance.
In the city of Warsaw. In the city of Warsaw, such a long time ago, 200 children stand lined, row on row, with their freshly washed faces and freshly washed clothes, the children of Poland who never grow old. With their small Jewish faces and pale haunted eyes, they march hand in hand down the street. No one cries. No one laughs, no one looks, no one turns, no one talks, as they walk down the streets where my grandparents walked.
Had my grandparents stayed in that dark, bloody land, my own children too would have marched hand in hand to the beat of the soldiers, the jackbooted stamp that would measure their lives till they died in those camps. The cries of my children at night take me back to those pale, hollow faces, stark white and black. Only the blood of the children remains in the streets, and it runs in our veins.
People call me too. And now I am a Shema to love, for I am a Jew. I did have a sister too, now she is no more. Esther, what's become of you in this awful war? Somewhere near a little tree, somewhere on the ground, lies my brother Shloimeh. Nazis shot him down. God who looks down from the skies, down upon the land, hear the little children's cries, killed at every hand.
At my bar mitzvah,
And his, dedicated to the memory of a 13-year-old hero of the resistance.
when I was 13, I became bar mitzvah.
When he was 13, he became bar mitzvah.
When I was 13, my teachers taught me to put tefillin on my arm.
When he was 13, his teachers taught him to throw a hand grenade with his arm.
When I was 13, I studied the pathways of the Bible and roadways of the Talmud.
When he was 13, he studied the canals of Warsaw and the sewers of the ghetto.
At my bar mitzvah, I took an oath to live as a Jew.
At his bar mitzvah, he took an oath to die as a Jew.
At my bar mitzvah, I lifted my voice and sang.
At his bar mitzvah, he lifted his fists and fought.
At my bar mitzvah, they praised my voice, my song, my melody.
At his bar mitzvah, they praised his strength, his courage, his fearlessness.
When I was 13, I was called up to the Torah. I went to the Bima.
When he was 13, his body went up in smoke, his soul rose to God.
When I was 13, I became bar mitzvah and lived.
When he was 13, he became bar mitzvah, and now lives within each of us.
When I am dead, thus you shall mourn me. There was a man, and see, he is no more. Before his time had come did this man die, and his life song was hushed before it ended. Yet one more song he had within him, and lost forever is that song unsung.
I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart.
Let the Mount of Memory. Let the Mount of Memory remember in my place. That is its purpose. Let the street named in the name of remember. Let the house of prayer in the name of God remember. Let the rolled up Torah scroll remember. Let the Yitzkor prayer remember. Let the multicolored shrouds of history remember, draped with fallen bodies that have turned to dust. Yes, let all of them remember, so that I might rest. The hope. Out of the strong sweetness. Out of the strong sweetness and out of the dead body of the Lion of Judah, the prophecies and the Psalms, out of the slaves of Egypt, out of the wandering tribesmen of the deserts, and the peasants of Palestine, out of the slaves of Babylon and Rome, out of the ghettos of Spain and Portugal, Germany and Poland, the Torah and the prophecies, the Talmud and the sacred studies, the hymns and songs of the Jews, and out of the Jewish dead, of Belgium and Holland, of Romania, Hungary, and Bulgaria, of France and Italy and Yugoslavia, of Lithuania and Latvia, White Russia and Ukraine, of Czechoslovakia and Austria, Poland and Germany, out of the greatly wronged, a people teaching and doing justice, out of the plundered, a generous people, out of the wounded, a people of physicians, and out of those who met only with hate, a people of love, a compassionate people.
The
The
chain
chain
continues.
continues.
The chain has not been broken. The chain continues still. From parents to children, from bonfires to bonfires, the chain continues.
The chain has not been broken. The chain continues still. From nights rejoicing in the Torah to nights rejoicing on Masada, the chain continues. So our ancestors danced,
one arm around a comrade, the other holding a Torah scroll, carrying the nation's suffering with love. So our ancestors danced.
So will we dance too, one arm around a comrade, the other embracing a generation's suffering. So will we dance too.
When our ancestors danced, they closed their eyes tight, and thus opened wellsprings of ecstasy. Their feet were light when their eyes were closed, so our ancestors danced.
They knew, our ancestors did, that they were dancing on an abyss. And if they opened their eyes, the wellsprings of ecstasy would close, and the chain would crumble to nothing. They knew, our ancestors knew. So will we dance too, our eyes closed, so will we continue the chain.
The olive trees that stand in silence upon the hills of time, to hear the voices of the city as bells of evening chime. The shofar sounding from the temple to call the world to prayer. The shepherd pauses in the valley and peace is everywhere. Yerushalayim shel Zahab, v'shel Nechoshet v'shel Or, halo lecho shirayim ani kinor. Yerushalayim shel Zahab, v'shel Nechoshet v'shel Or, halo lecho shirayim ani kinor. How many songs, how many stories the stony hills recall. Around her heart my city carries a lonely ancient wall. And far away beyond the desert, 1,000 suns will glow. We shall be going to the Jordan by way of Jericho. Yerushalayim shel Zachar, v'shel Nechoshet v'shel Or, halo lecho shirayim ani kinor. Yerushalayim shel Zachar, v'shel Nechoshet v'shel Or, halo lecho shirayim ani
Please rise for the Kaddish of Remembrance, page 13.
Kishinev,
Kishinev,
Warsaw, Auschwitz, Dachau, Buchenwald, Babi Yar, Baghdad, Hebron,
Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chaim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'imromav Huya Aseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. You may be seated. We thank our Martyrology participants for their wonderful prose readings and song this morning. It's a powerful thing to remember the past with the voices of the future.